Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there and welcome, in fact, to the aforementioned Lynn Cullen Live. As far as I can tell, I do fit that description. This is not false advertising. There it is. I'm sorry. Is that okay? Did I screw with it too much? Here. Couldn't tell which one. Sorry, we've switched headsets and I was messing unintentionally with Jess's. So, happy Monday to you. Happy last day of April 2012. Heading into May. Now, see, everything I've just said, no, that's not true. I did mean hello, but all the rest of it. Heading into May. Duh! Like you didn't know. But it's hard to just jump right in and say, so, what did you think of the White House Correspondents Dinner? Blah, blah, blah. Did you watch it? I watched some, not all. I had been out and missed part. I missed much of Obama's speech, but I saw Jimmy Kimmel. And I don't know. I think, it's pretty funny. At least this year, you have to admit, there was no huge controversy that ensued because of something that was said, at least as far as I know. I mean, I'm sure some people have taken offense at this or that, but as in years past, such as Stephen Colbert, be hard to beat that one, Stephen Colbert or I know there's been others, but I can't think of them. Whatever. Obama's very good at that. That's not easy to deliver essentially stand-up humor. It's not just a matter of reading it. There's timing and tone and expression and, geez, I don't think I could do that very well. It's a whole different thing. I'm sure he was coached by people who know what they're doing, however. And my guess is he's a quick study. Well, I got so many things bouncing around in my head, and I really wish I would take notes throughout the day because thoughts occur to me, and I think, oh, I've got to, and then, of course, they disappear, and I don't write them down. And often those are the things that are probably most interesting simply because it's not just ripped from the news. I got to tell you, I'm increasingly getting fascinated by and reading everything I can get my hands on about these Chinese cases that are popping up, the scandal cases, and now we add the blind activist hiding out, as far as we know, in the U.S. Embassy. Just fascinated by these stories. And because, not so much from the geopolitical point of view, although that obviously is the huge backdrop on which they play, I guess a backdrop in front of which they play, but the human aspects of these stories, just mind-blowing. And because they happen in a country in which there is so much repression and so repression of information that you get a lot of holes in the story, and here's where I guess imaginations run wild. You have to sort of fill it in yourself. But fascinating stories remind me of the stories that used to come out of Russia, of the USSR, the Soviet Union, and behind the Iron Curtain, because essentially that's what's going on here. We cannot conceive of the lives that so many people on this planet live. I don't think I've spoken about the North Korean escapee, who has had a book written about him. This is also a young man. That story is so unbelievable that it's hard for us to even comprehend, but I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. It is the story of a man, young, born into a concentration camp, born into one of North Korea's horrific camps in which they keep, I guess, whatever, political undesirables, and he, because he was born into this place, literally knew no reality beyond it. And because these camps are such that the human beings in them are treated no better than animals. No better than animals. There's no sense of the concepts like love, trust, compassion don't exist. The existence of art, music, history do not exist. There is nothing there. Nothing. And this kid grew up there. And it was only when an older man was brought into the camp from the outside world who spoke to him a bit about things like families, love, books, that he began to realize that outside of the electrified wire, there was some other place. Can you imagine? No, you can't. Anyway, he did manage to escape with the help of this older man who died in the effort. Very few people have escaped. A miracle that he escaped. And he lives now in the United States, but he is a damaged soul, as you can imagine. So I've just been fascinated by these stories, the intrigue of the case involving the dead British guy who supposedly was murdered by the wife of the mayor of the big city, who was on his way up to the top of Chinese politics. That one is a fascinating case. But now the blind activist. But what's freaking me out about the blind activist case? So here's a guy who's under house arrest, like only the Chinese can do house arrest. I mean, they built a wall around his house. They had armed guards around it all the time, maybe in his house, whatever. His wife and his son are essentially imprisoned with him in the home. And so he fakes illness for weeks on end, can't get out of his bed, so that the guards would become maybe a bit complacent. He ain't going anywhere. He can't even get out of his bed. All of that, of course, is subterfuge. And then his wife somehow helps in staging some kind of a distraction. And he, in the dead of night, but blind since birth, so that the dead of night is high noon to him, manages to scale this wall and get away. And this network of what can only be unbelievably courageous Chinese people somehow get him to Beijing, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles away. Somehow he, blind, hooks up with them. He spends at least 24 hours by himself, blind. And he eludes capture. And then is taken to various safe houses, an underground railroad, and gotten to the U.S. Embassy. That in itself is an amazing, story. But it's what I can't stop thinking about is the wife and the child. Because he had to leave them to escape. Who is the more heroic person here? The wife he leaves behind, who has already been beaten and subjected to some torture as he did by the Chinese authorities. What are they going to do to her now? What will happen to his child? What about all the people who saved him, who are not in the U.S. Embassy? Many of them, of course, have already been detained. God help them. And you start wondering about the sacrifices that people will make in their lives, the choices, the decisions. And you're so humbled by them. We have our lives here. Our lives have their stresses, their challenges, their difficulties. There's no doubt about it. But we in this country, I don't think, can conceive, have a lot of trouble wrapping our heads around the reality of the lives of so many people. Who is the more heroic? The blind activist who will be the hero, who is the hero of the story. I don't know that he's the hero. I think all the people whose names we don't know. I'm not taking anything away from him. The people who probably sacrificed their lives for him. So this goes on, and of course the geopolitics of it. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is due in Beijing today or tomorrow or something like that, and the tension between the two countries huge and yada, 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 yada. Yeah, that's all real. This is the stuff of movies. But you see, the stuff of movies is the stuff of life. Fascinating. My thoughts go out to his wife, his child, and their families, and all those extraordinary people who helped him get to security in the United States Embassy. I can't imagine. All right. Oh, and speaking of, unbelievable things that go on in other parts of the world, remember Kony? Yeah, he made a big splash because of that video that went viral and all over the world, blah, blah, blah. It didn't make a damn bit of difference. Except that more people now, if you say, do you know Kony? Yeah, oh yeah, that guy. Well, he is still on the lam. And what's amazing about this, so he's on the lam after the entire world has been informed and been told, try to help catch him. The whole world is after this one guy. Not only the whole world, but so are the Green Berets, Navy SEALs, the best of the best that the U.S. has, with all its gizmos, all its technological tracking devices, its satellites, its night goggles, its who knows what. They're all after this guy who continues to elude them. And what's fascinating about that is, well, this is an old story. The Navy SEALs, the Green Berets, they're not on his territory. I mean, they are on his territory. He has gone into the jungle. Rivers infested with crocodiles. All manner of, terror and huge challenges. But it's his country, it's his land, he knows it. And as the Washington Post has put it, he is using Stone Age tactics to dodge the state-of-the-art, high-tech surveillance available to his pursuers. And there's something fascinating about that. I mean, if he weren't such an evil, vile being, you'd almost be rooting for him. But it also, again, is humbling in that we always think, and we thought this in Vietnam too, we'll go, I mean, got a bunch of guys wearing, like funny little hats, barefoot, running around in rice paddies. Look what we got. We got, these huge planes. We got napalm. We got everything you could have, and we'll take them out in a minute. Mm-hmm. So it's the same kind of hubris that comes with our wealth and our might. But sometimes that is not going to get the best of what are considered primitive methods used by the enemy. So here is the Navy SEAL who leads the U.S. search effort, Captain Kenneth Wright, saying, he's on the run. This isn't going to be easy. Knock wood. Maybe we can get lucky. That's our Navy SEAL who's leading the effort. Doesn't sound too optimistic, does he? Knock on wood. Maybe we can get lucky. Say a prayer. We got about 20 Green Berets on the ground, too. Something fascinating about that. I'll tell you, there's been a very funny, not funny, but intense back and forth going on between Chris Potter and our listener, Ray, from Lawrenceville on the Oakland Catholic prom issue, which flared up when Potter was on the show on Wednesday, continued with Tom Sokolowski on Thursday, and the two of them, these two really smart guys, going at it, literally on email, and I'm being copied, so I've been enjoying it, although I did last night say, hey guys, cease fire, jeez. I mean, they're not going to come to an agreement here, but it's been interesting. And speaking of things Catholic, one other thing that was just sent me. This is so sad to me. Okay, you have a high school in Michigan, Catholic high school, And one of their alums had been asked to speak at the high school graduation and was prepared to do so. And all of a sudden, his invitation is revoked because the principal found out, I guess, obviously belatedly, that he's gay. So, you have an alum, obviously with some standing, or he wouldn't have been asked in the first place. You know, they don't just ask any alum. He must have had, you know, been a heck of a student and has enjoyed some success or whatever. And he's asked to give the speech. And then they find somebody says, "Don't you know that he's openly gay?" And so the principal announced, can't have him. By the way, his younger brother is in the graduating class. And the principal says that he personally supports this guy, but he has to abide. So this is the principal sort of stuck, because the diocese, he says, said you have got to disinvite him. Now, the speaker is still going to attend the graduation, but just to be there to see his brother graduate. And interestingly enough, the speech he was going to give, he's now going to give at Central Michigan University on May 20th. And what's sad about this is, here's my guess is, he wasn't going to speak about homosexuality. He was going to give a graduation speech. I mean, this kind of thing is getting out of hand. And somebody, Ted Kennedy's widow, Vicki Kennedy, something similar just happened to her. She was supposed to give the commencement address, I'm not sure where, some college. And then all of a sudden, the bishop hears about it and says, she cannot do it because of her politics on marriage equality and abortion. A whole thousands and thousands of people signed petitions saying to the bishop, come on. And he stood pat. It's sad. I had a similar thing happen to me, frankly. I'm not going to name names, but I also was invited to give a speech at a Catholic institution in these parts this year. And very happily said I would. The subject had nothing to do with anything that the church, would have found my whatever I was going to say untoward or out of step with its teachings. And then I was, after I'd been invited, after it was in my, my little black book, I was emailed and by a very apologetic person who had invited me in the first place and said, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. I'm sure I don't have to, but I forgot to ask, what is your position on abortion? And I think, what? What? And, well, I said, well, I guess I'd be in the pro-choice camp. Whoops, wrong answer. I'm disinvited. So there's a lot of this that goes on, and the person who invited me was very embarrassed, obviously, and apologetic as all heck, but said that the institution had a policy, and obviously this is a policy that is in place, so that it doesn't matter. If you were a rocket scientist who was coming to a Catholic school to talk about rocket science, and yet you maybe gave to Planned Parenthood or something, you're not going to speak. I think the church might want to revisit this, because this is a step too far. This to me is really getting so beyond the realm of, let me just say, even ecumenicism. I mean, agreeing that you live in a country in which there are people of all different kinds of religions and points of view, and yet we exist together. And if in fact the subject matter that they would be speaking on is nothing about anything that the church would, be opposed to, why would you not let such a person speak? They're not going to be introduced by their political affiliation, by, the audience is not going to be given a list of charities they donated to or statements they might have made in the last 20 years. What is this nuttiness? Why have we all gone stark raving mad? There's something afoot that is very upsetting. And there are well, I'll stop. But that was just, it's another case in point. I think in some respects, while I completely understand where the church is coming from, and I can completely understand where Oakland Catholic's coming from, and I'll even defend their right in that case, I cannot defend the disinviting of this kid who happens to be gay. I cannot defend the disinviting of Vicky Kennedy, who was not going to talk about anything that would have offended any of the church. I'm not going to. It's just nuts. Okay. That's it. I'll stop. I think I better get one of those breaks in, okay? And return momentarily.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the ballet, opera, City Theater, Science Center, Symphony, History Museum, and the Carnegie Museums. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. bergbargains.com.
Packers,
Vikings,
Red State,
Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown,
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
half empty,
Half full.
But no matter how different we are, we're all connected, and we can all make a difference. That's why United Way brings people, expertise, and resources together to improve the education, income, and health of our communities, the building blocks for a better life. When we live united, our efforts, magnified by others, add up to real change. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly, so do our communities. But real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So let's look beyond our differences.
Live united.
One by one, let's make a difference. Let's reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all.
Live united.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual restaurant guide is available now. Plus Lily Tomlin, Roy Ayers, The Raven, and All-American Rejects. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com. Sewickley Med Spa provides the most advanced treatments in aesthetic medicine, including Botox, Restylane, Juvederm, Radius, medical-grade chemical peels, and sclerotherapy using a sclera for spider vein correction. We offer a relaxing environment and only the best products for your complete satisfaction. Conveniently located at 435 Broad Street in downtown Sewickley. Call 412-259-8628 to find out about this month's specials. Sewickley Med Spa.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Alrighty. Hey, closer to home here. This is a quote from the governor. That'd be Corbett. We don't have the money right now. Okay. That is the governor talking about the fact that he is not going to bail out the Port Authority because he doesn't have any money. Now, let me just say this. He's got money. And he could get more. But he has a certain political point of view in which he is not going to give money to mass transit. It's just not in his reality. Why, I don't think he's probably ever been on a bus. So, because the governor says he ain't giving the Port Authority any money, as you know, the governor also said that he really didn't have much money to give to children in public schools. Didn't have a lot of money, next to none, to give to kids in state-related, not for long, I can assure you, colleges. And so the Port Authority, because now they're not getting money that used to come, by the way, from the state, has said, okay, well, if this is all we got, then here's all we can do. They are going to cut 46 of what's left of the bus routes they have. If you recall, they cut a humongous number of them just last year. Now they're going to cut 46 more, leaving just 102 bus routes. All service on buses would end at 10 p.m. on all but 13 routes. Okay, so let me just tell you. What happens to the people who work as, waiters, dishwashers, in restaurants, who work service jobs or late shifts, and who don't own cars, but whose jobs are absolutely necessary for those businesses in which they work? And if they get out of work or actually even have to go to work after 10 p.m., what are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? I would ask the governor that, but all he would say is, we don't have the money right now. Okay, Governor, well then how about Access? You know Access? You see these little vans going around, Access. That, by the way, is a nationally recognized transit service for the elderly and for the disabled. And it provides 6,000 rides a day for people who otherwise would not be able to get to their doctors, would not be able to get to, the grocery store, anywhere. $500 disabled persons are going to lose their jobs. See, sometimes disabled people who require access actually have jobs. They won't have them if they can't get to them. Some of them actually go to school, Governor. Do you know that? Oh, yeah, they do. They wouldn't be able to. Somebody who works at cerebral palsy office here, and so many of their people do, rely totally on access. is quoted as saying, "You're talking about people not being able to leave their homes anytime for any reason. Take that, you disabled folks." Because the governor, let's get the quote again, "We don't have the money." I want to say to the governor, you don't have the money? Listen, fancy pants. You don't know what not having money is. You do have money. It's these people who you are about to screw over, who are hanging on by their fingernails already, the least of us, the neediest of us. And you're saying, I don't have the money. I do have money for corporations. I do have money for Marcellus Shale. I do have money, and I don't ask much from them. I have money for all kinds of things. But I don't have money for poor people who actually need help. Now, of course, some of the people who ride the bus, whose routes are going to be taken away, maybe do have access to a car. So they'll be getting in their cars, and they'll be driving to work. And so the rest of you who drive, you better get used to more traffic on the road, or to getting to that parking space you think you have a little earlier, because somebody else might be in it. And on top of all of this, after cutting everything, and we won't even mention the number of PAT employees who will be out of work, hundreds. They're raising the rate. Isn't that classic? Giving you less and making you pay more. But Governor Corbett doesn't have any money. So I'm on the bus today, and I'm sitting behind this young man, and he's studying for a test. I'd say he's about 25. And he has on some of those colorful, he goes to one of these for-profit schools that soak you, that leave you with tons of debt. I'm looking at this kid, and he's studying. He's got a final or something. I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking about the way we have structured things. And I'm wondering, I said to him as he was leaving, I said, good luck. He looked at me like, what? And I didn't just mean on the test. I meant good luck. Good luck. Because the powers that be have stacked the deck so much against your making it. To watch him he was studying. God knows what hopes he has. God knows what's riding on this for him. And if the powers that be have their way, and he does do his part and graduates, he will graduate with a ton of debt. He will graduate with a very iffy job situation. I don't know what it is he's being trained for. Maybe I hope he's being trained for something in which there are jobs. I would hope. But those jobs generally don't pay a heck of a lot. And what if he gets a job? He gets the job. He makes it. He gets a job. And it's in a hospital. But he reports to work at midnight. His shift is midnight to 8 a.m. And there's no bus. And he has no car. So he says to the people who just gave him a job, I can't get there. And they say, well, I'm sorry, that's the opening we have. It's not our job to get you here. These are the things that go through my head when I sit on a bus and I look at this kid, and it almost makes me want to cry. It does make me want to cry. And the anger I feel with this country and with its people for allowing this unbelievably unfair, outrageous system that is totally tipped to the people who already have it all, who need no more, but keep getting more. And the people who need help, who need a bus, who need access, who are willing to work hard and study hard like that kid, we just keep sticking one impediment after another in their way. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps, we say. Then we take their boots away. Shame on us. Shame on us. To my emails. Marcy says, I thought Access was subsidized by lottery money. Maybe it gets a little bit, but obviously it doesn't get enough. And actually, all I was aware the lottery money did was go to, I thought it just went to lower drug costs for seniors, but I know it's geared to seniors. Now, a lot of seniors use Access, but not sure. All I know is in the way things are right now, Access is going to take a big hit. Not totaled, but a huge number of their regular customers are going to have to be dropped. They simply can't be picked up. Diane writes, having been born and raised a Catholic, I am so ashamed of what the church has become. I am 62, and never did I think I would proudly say that I now consider myself an agnostic. The church is supposed to love, protect, and comfort its members. Instead, they are fixated on contraception and gay marriage. The church needs to be a little more spiritual and a little less religious. Well, I agree with you, and I haven't even mentioned the fact that the Vatican has found a great threat within the church that needs to be dealt with immediately, and that, of course, are the nuns. You have heard that the church is gunning for America's nuns. And what the church has against these amazing women, who I have had the privilege of working with, as you know, what the church has against these women is that they seem fixated on things like helping the needy. That's the problem. They're helping the needy, and they are not as involved with these sexual things. The nuns, who are poor. The priests, by the way, are not poor. You know that. The nuns who are poor, who work day and night. The nuns who are responsible for, in so many communities, including this one, the first hospitals that were built, the first schools that ever came up, the nuns who have done such extraordinary work and continue to do so for the needy, for the least of us. They are somehow now considered a threat, and they've got to be reined in. They're being investigated. In many ways, this is a church hierarchy that has clearly lost its way. And I'm sorry if I offend Catholics by saying so, but I think most Catholics in this country agree with me. I know they do. And my guess is that the Vatican's thought about all this, and I think the Vatican is quite willing to maybe just let the American church go. Or they're willing to let it constrict into just these, sort of total true believers who will do exactly as they're told. My sense is that they're willing to tell the troublemakers like the nuns to get lost. Either heal or go. Because the church, its future lies in the developing world. Its future lies in Africa. Its future lies in South America. It sure as heck doesn't in North America, because folks in North America have been raised and lived with this unfortunate sense that they have a will and that they have reason. And it's harder for them, much harder for them, to jump when someone tells them to jump, even if that's the priest. Isn't that the truth? We live in North America where women have been unshackled in large part. The church ain't cool with that, in large part. And so while it appears the Republicans are, at war with women, on women, it appears the church has some of the same problems. As you know, speaking of the Republicans, the Republican House, did say, okay, well, we will keep those student loan rates down. We won't let them double. But the way we're going to pay for that is we're going to take it out of health funds for women, funds that are used for cervical cancer and breast cancer screenings. That's, of course, where the Republicans found the money. It's sort of like Corbett. I don't have any money. The Republicans in the House say, we don't have any money. And then when they go looking for money, they don't find it in the giveaway programs they have to oil companies. No, there's no money there. Oh, no, we cannot stop welfare for Exxon. But look, we could take a few $100 million away here from giving women cervical and breast cancer screenings. But of course, the Republicans are not at war with women. Marcy writes, Corbett also has the money to pay for ID cards so that people can vote, when used to be we didn't have to pay, the state didn't have to pay for anything to have us vote. That's a point. He did find that money, didn't he? Yes, that's true. Granted, it's probably not as much. Chuck writes, Lynn, an insignificant 0.5% tax, 0.5% tax on Marcellus Shale would cover all of the budget cuts of the first 2 years of the Corbett administration. Do you know what that would do? That would mean schools then would be able to say, oh, thank God we don't have to lay off the teachers. We can actually continue to have a band. And, all those disabled people can get to their jobs. And those poor people who can't afford a car can get to their jobs. If we just put a 0.5% tax on these rich gas companies. Nope. Republicans will tell you that that's anti-business, and that's never smart. Anti-people, anti-woman, that's fine. Anti-business, no. Chuck says, when Corbett exits, can't come too soon, as governor, maybe the state will be in the black. Maybe it will. But at what cost? Well, see, the people who are the collateral damage from this kind of public policy, I don't want to call it public policy because it doesn't benefit the public. It benefits private interests. But it comes under the heading of public policy. This kind of public policy, what Republicans put off as public policy, leaves so much collateral damage. And those people who are the collateral damage are never in a position to be heard. They're trying to figure out what they can possibly feed their kid for lunch. Okay. Here's something I came across that it's one of those things you come across and you think, oh, God, no. Please, no. You got to be kidding me. Okay. Republicans, tune out because you don't believe this is happening anyway. So just, this is sort of about global warming. I know it's not happening. Global warming. But there's a little bit of a red flag has apparently gone up. The red flag has been put up by NASA, who obviously does a lot of stuff with this kind of research. There's a little something going on that has surprised folks, the scientists. This is something apparently they've worried about. The permafrost is melting, as you know. I was showing off the ring. Did I do this on the air? My ring?
Yeah, you did.
I did. That's made out of, I don't have it on today, that's made out of woolly mammoth ivory. And he said, well, wouldn't that be something so precious? What are you making rings out? There's woolly mammoths popping up every 5 seconds from the permafrost. They have 16-foot long. Anyway, because it's melting. And what they're seeing is, and they thought this would happen, that when the permafrost melts, especially across Siberia, where my woolly mammoth was, there could be a resulting release of tons of methane gas that has been trapped in the frozen ground. Now, methane gas is a real bad thing for the air. The biggest producer of methane, I thought, was cow farts. Do you remember learning about that? No, seriously. Cows fart constantly, and it's almost all methane. But methane alters the climate. Now, you not only have cows farting all over the place and everything else we're doing, but coming out of this melted permafrost soil is tons of methane. But that's not even... we are seeing that. But they're seeing methane from another source that they didn't expect. They are seeing methane seeping out of cracks in the sea ice in the Arctic, all across the Arctic. And here's what's scary. scientists say they don't know what created that gas. They expected the gas out of the permafrost soil. They don't get why there's this methane that's coming out of the Arctic. They hadn't predicted that. And they had never predicted that there would be a lot of it and that it would then, as it comes out, what? It makes its way into the atmosphere. So they say, now we haven't detected huge methane release from the Arctic. But, they say, if this continues with cracks in the ice and more methane coming out, given the fact that we're talking about such a vast, huge region, the Arctic, we're talking potentially about a huge new source of methane polluting the air. Okay, so that's a surprise. A new source of warming that they hadn't even considered has popped up. That's daunting stuff. Oh, trying to think of something happy to end on. Oh, I know. For those of you who like to be, fashionable, but also like to tote a gun. Did you see this? I think this was in the, I cut it out like last week, and it popped up in the Post-Gazette today. So I thought, ooh, you should have shared that before. Anyway, there's people who make clothing for men are now making clothing, good-looking, stylish stuff, that has pockets that are made for your gun so you can conceal it, but it won't add an unsightly bulge. So you will be able to tote and carry and still look really spiffy. Now, there's this is taking off. The Woolrich Company, they're the ones who started it. They have a concealed carry line. And it includes a lightweight, water-resistant vest, that looks like any standard vest you'd find in an outdoor shop. But it includes a stealth compartment in the front. So the wearer, get this, can appear to be warming his hands while he's actually gripping his gun. Just looks like a little pocket where you're warming your hands, but in fact you are getting your hands around your gun, the trigger, and you are about to pull it out and take someone down. Under Armour, there's another company that does a clothing line, sort of under clothing line, is also adding a jacket and a plaid shirt with pockets for easy gun access. 37 states now have statutes that require them to provide concealed carry permits. So listen to this. If 37 states, most of the states in this country, now have laws that require the state to provide a concealed carry permit if an applicant meets requirements like, they're stiff, these requirements, like not being a convict. A handful of other states allow concealed carrying of handguns without a permit. So if you're a con, an ex-con, it doesn't matter, you too. After all, this is America, and that's what we call freedom. Only one state, that's Illinois, now forbids handgun carrying in any form. But that's not expected to last long. So the clothing lines address a perceived need in the concealed carry culture. Did you know? There's a concealed carry community. And there is a need in that community because gun owners say they want to practice maximum uncertainty, which is to say, of course, that they want to be carrying, but they don't want anyone to know they're carrying. Thus, all those bad guys they're forever so afraid of are not going to be sure if, in fact, they could be taken down. One more thing, and then I'll leave you alone. A spokesman for Woolrich says the company has now added new patterns for shirts, pants, and the elite discreet carry twill jacket in dark shale gray and dark wheat tan. In addition to its gun-friendly pockets, the jacket has a channel cut through the back that the company says can be used to store plastic handcuffs. Kinky. Who knew these gun toters were so kinky, too? Too much. Too much. So that's it. All right. Have a great day, and see yous tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.